Good evening and welcome to the broadcast of the Enid City Commission meeting. Broadcasting live in high definition from the council chambers at the City Administration Building located at 401 West Owen K. Garriott. Please stay tuned as Mayor Bill Shuey presides over the meeting.
Opportune things. Yeah. That's what her point, though. I don't think her point was.
Yeah.
Nina got rid of her crutches.
Really?
Now she gets to use her.
You take a boot?
Just to move.
No, I don't. Try to spend as little time thinking about the city of Enid when I'm not here.
I'd like to say the same, but
Well, you know, you could.
true.
So it's
true.
it's the gate.
That's right.
Yeah.
It goes with the territory.
I try not to think so.
Call the meeting to order. And we're all here except for Tammy.
She'll be here.
Item 2, discuss and take necessary action on the fiscal year 2016-2017 City of Enid budget. Aaron?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Tonight, we're set to talk about 4 specific budgets and then any other topics that you would like to revisit that we've already gone over so far through this process. The 4 funds that we're going to talk to you about tonight are airport, CDBG, golf, and EPTA. All 4 of these were presented to you as balanced budgets, revenue and expenses matching on all. So, airport's going to be first, and actually Dan Onosorge is going to come and do the presentation on the budget for that.
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, as you are aware, the airport fund is an enterprise fund, meaning we have to balance our revenue and our costs. Our revenues emanate basically from hangar rentals, land rentals for personally owned hangars, and the fuel that we sell as well. Our costs for the fuel itself, we have to buy that wholesale. Insurance, equipment repairs, equipment that we purchase, supplies, personnel is a big number in there, and various and sundry other things that you have to do to keep the airport running. The fuel issue is always a difficult one to nail down. We do a projection based on past experiences, but the good news is we watch that fuel sale and we watch our profits there almost daily, and so we're able to keep that in line and make the profit that we need to do to keep the airport running. One project we have out there this year, I think you're all aware of, the new apron we want to put over near the joint use hangar. We anticipate up to $300,000 grant money available from the FAA, and somewhere in the neighborhood $280,000 from the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission, which means that money from the Strategic Military Planning Commission will be our match with the FAA bid. And at the end of the day, the city should not have to expend any funds.
Is that split over a 2-year period? Oh, no.
It will be in this coming year, this FY 16 to 17 for us. It'll be a short project. It'll take a couple months. Any questions?
No, I'm
You have
talking,
jet fuel.
talking about the grant money from the...
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's $150,000 a year from the FAA, and yes, we're capturing 2 years worth of that money. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I probably didn't say it right.
Fine.
Ben, you had a question?
Yeah, you have jet fuel sales projected to be lower by $300,000 this year. Is that due to volume or per gallon cost?
It's the per
decrease?
gallon cost.
Okay.
And as an example, 2 years ago, at the wholesale level, the fuel was about $3.30 a gallon. This past month, it was $1.51. So
okay.
So that's the reason.
So
we
we're
need to
not
keep-
seeing that much less traffic from vans?
Last year, we sold 185,000 gallons. It's the lowest in several years. That was because the runway shortened, less traffic, less military traffic. This year, we're on track to sell 225,000, and that number will be going up once that runway over at Vance shuts down.
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
sir. Anything else?
Anybody? Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, next, we're going to go to CDBG, which is on page 145, and this is just a recapture of what you previously approved on the April 19th meeting for their allocation for the upcoming year's funds. We have $158,000 going to the HUD 108 loan, $70,000 for administration, $50,000 for housing and emergency repair program, and then the rest, remaining 109 to Government Springs South Park improvements. Is there any questions on the CDBG budget?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm very much in favor of improvements at Government Springs South, but we had also discussed keeping that more vague, so we're not handcuffing ourselves to improvements there in the event that we would like to do improvements at, the other park that's in that?
Haskins or-
Haskins.
Thank you, Haskins. Is it worthwhile at this point to make that change, or are we just looking at numbers and you guys are handling the semantics?
Right, this is basically just on a slide presentation to you in the budget, that all it has is a grant expenditure of $387,000, and that's the breakdown of how that is spent is with the HUD documents that CDBG has, but it is not within the budget document that you will be adopting.
But I can tell you that Stephanie Carr is working on that document to complete very soon. And right now, it's going to be very broadly written about Government Springs Park, but we can also certainly put some other projects in there. If, whatever we put in there, if we deviate from that by, is it 20% or whatever the number is, we can deviate from that without any issues, but if we deviate more than that, we would have to go through the process of hearings and have you approve a new plan. So we'll try to avoid that by trying to broadly state the plan that Stephanie's working on now that's due in a few days, right?
Yes.
Just one slight clarification for me. The housing and emergency repairs, are we administering that ourselves or are we farming that out?
That'll be administered through CDSA.
And last year, that amount was 75,000, right?
Yes,
Through CDSA.
yes.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to the golf course, which is on page 98. As we look at golf course, we presented you a balanced budget. Golf revenue right now is trending at about 30,000 under for this year. As a result of that, we felt it was prudent to come back and lower memberships from what we had budgeted this year. So there is still a slight increase over where we're coming in this year, but overall decrease from the current year's budget there.
While we're talking about that particular item, do we have any explanation as to why we expect the memberships to be down that much?
If we look historically, about 10,000 less is where we have been coming in on membership. I think
So
maybe,
it's declining every year?
yes, I believe so.
Well, you have some histories.
I do.
I have it in front of me, so I don't know if it's declining or not every year. I think what she's saying is that it has not, the memberships have, on average, been less than that. Something to add to that, too.
We do have somebody signed up to speak to this item. Aaron, go ahead and finish, and please speak into the microphone.
Aaron's looking at the information right now.
There's been a continual trend down since about 2009, 2010 on memberships, based on history.
Is there,
We changed the structure of the memberships, right? Didn't we change the price and that has not really resulted in it?
Yeah, we redid basically all the ordinances here, all the rates and all those things, and it was overall well-received, I believe. We didn't see, I mean, there's a lot of people that get upset about a few things, but overall, it was okay. The biggest thing that I can speak for on this year is just, we've lost a lot of the corporate, a lot of the members that just, the oil field's down. We had a lot of members that joined that was here over the last couple of years that were involved, that were living in our hotels and whatnot, and basically joined because they played so much. It was better for them to join. It was more, but they're not here now. So I know that's one factor for what's going on. Historically, how they've gone down, change. Some people like it, some people don't. I think, Mr. Commissioner, your question, I think we had some that we may have lost with the change, but we had some that added, so it kind of equaled itself. I think the biggest thing is just the economy part. We lost a lot of corporate.
The memberships themselves don't necessarily translate to number of rounds of golf that are played out there?
Well, we count every time a member goes, it's a round counted,
So
absolutely.
is the trend for rounds of golf played out there up or down, or the same?
Right now, we are about 500 rounds down to where we were at this point last year. So not terribly. So what's happening is some of them may not may not be able to join for one reason or another, but we still are getting some play. But we're about 500 rounds down to where we were at this point last year. And last year, we finished out like 19,600 rounds. So if we have a good May and June, we could make that up. It's just, we're not too far off trend-wise. And that kind of is the equivalent to what she was talking about for the projection of our $30,000. It's kind of pretty close to between memberships and those rounds, so that's kind of right where that is.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that. If you have the same number of rounds virtually, yet a pretty significant decrease in memberships, and you're saying that the reason in decrease in memberships is because people aren't coming out like they were, a lot. So who's catching up the gap between the rounds that you would have lost from the people that used to be members?
Well, we're like she said, we're projecting the memberships to come down low because the membership renewal takes place this month within this fiscal year. So we could be surprised and a lot more than we anticipate could renew because the memberships expire at the end of this month. So it's all on projections right now. And I didn't get your other question, I apologize.
You answered it, that's fine.
I mean, that's so, but we still, our steady core members are still there. The ones that play, your Monday to Friday, the retired gentlemen that play a lot, those guys still play. Where we're really hurt as a municipality in public course is the guys who might play 10, 12 times a year, but maybe through a job loss or one thing or another may not play at all, or maybe it's one or two. And it doesn't seem like much, but when you have over a year, that adds up a lot. So I'm pleased that our rounds, and the reason why our revenues are still close is, because we did increase them last year, and so our amount of dollar per round has increased quite a bit from the year before. So that's helped in regards to our revenues. But it's just like I said, right now, May and June are crucial. They're really busy, hopefully busy months for us, so.
Cody, last year, we talked about this pretty extensively, and we were promised this year we would have better statistics from your POS system. We haven't seen those. Are they available?
Yes, sir.
And that may be my fault, Commissioner. They are available. We've got a year's worth of data, so we'll get that. You can get that to us.
Aaron has access to that, and so does Annette. And I can get, but obviously, they can print those and get that to you.
I will say that I'm not going to vote in favor of anything on golf until we have a chance to look at the full picture.
Fair enough. We will get that as soon as you can get it to me.
Sure.
Not saying that there's anything wrong.
Sure. One thing I will tell you, Commissioner, that you'll see, it will be able to tell you exactly how many rounds were 18 that were senior, non-senior member. It'll tell you how many 9-hole rounds were junior, regular, senior.
That's what you said.
So, yeah, so it actually breaks it down, how many members, how many carts, how many were 9 holes. All the things that year one that was hard to do before, it's all right there. So it'll be able to give that to you.
Cool. Your golf course is in great shape. It has been for several years.
They have great staff. That's what helps. So.
I'm glad to hear that the number of rounds is consistent.
Yeah, last month, we were actually trailing true and very well, but March and April, we had some wind and some rain. I don't know if that helped or hurt us, or is it the economy, or both? I mean, that's the one thing we've talked quite a bit about, and I think I'll have a better handle in May and June, because that's truly, as you know, golf season is there. We'll see how much of it was weather-related or how much is the economy getting us, so.
I have a question. You have another one, Aaron? To me, greens and membership revenue accounts are two different items. You budgeted last year to increase the revenue, which you have, $175,000 both years. Is that correct? But the new fees, probably, you have less participation, but the new fees bring you back to where you were.
Yes, that's why I said the amount of dollar per round has went up because of
Membership's
that.
down, but that has nothing to do with, well, that's $10,000 less in revenue. But your greens fees were 175 last year, and you're budgeting that this year.
She can answer that.
We're projecting to come in green fees at 170 this year, so.
5,000 under.
I'm just looking at the book. It says 175.
Budgeted amount.
The budget was 175, but where we're actually coming in, dollars collected, we're
Okay,
projecting is
actual.
170.
That's the
Yes.
projections.
Okay. And the membership fees are down because of less participation.
And that's why with our rate structure last year, I think that's what answers your question is, even though our rounds are down a little bit, as Dr. Van Hooser asked, our revenues are still close because of our increase in our rates that we did last year.
It's supposed to generate about $30,000 in extra revenue, I think.
I think, compared to last year, Aaron, I'd say we're.
When will this be back, Aaron,
When will what?
if we
We will,
delay it?
we will have an opportunity tomorrow night, and then right now, we'll be talking about it again on Tuesday night, but we're planning to approve the budget, but there's nothing that says we have to approve the budget that day. The only constraints that we have are, we want to get the budget approved 30 days in advance of the new year to avoid asking you to try and do the emergency. So we might need to plan a special meeting in May if we don't approve it next Tuesday, or have another meeting to discuss this. We're flexible. We need to make sure that you're comfortable with whatever the budgeted amount ends up being. So we're open to suggestions there, but right now what we have planned is tomorrow night to talk about the event center and anything else you want to talk about, which could be golf. And then Tuesday night of next week again, but the intent was there to approve the budget.
I think Aaron's point is good.
One thing I think everybody's getting wrapped around the membership. The membership isn't that big a deal. Sometimes it hurts you. If you have a guy that plays every day, he's killing you. So,
Those are the ones we have right now.
right. That one, when they write a check every time they come play, that's the ones you want more than a membership.
Cash is good.
Well, and really, Cody, I like for this thing to break even. I think there's no reason it shouldn't break even. If it's wages is a problem, we need to take care of the wages. You got 7 full-time employees, that's quite a few.
Commissioner, we'd definitely be looking at that, and we are looking at it, and we'll continue to look at it. The hard truth is, I don't know that we can ever get to break even, to be honest with you, because with whatever number of personnel, we've got health benefit, we have benefits. And so health benefits, pension benefits are going to cost a certain amount of money. Your point's well taken. We may be running it.
I know she cut me off, so I guess I'm done.
Sorry, sir.
No, I'm done.
David?
Well, I mean, I still look at the golf from the overall standpoint, kind of the direction Rodney's going. If you look at the numbers the other way around, we're spending $233,000 of taxpayer, non-golf playing taxpayers' money to support this golf course, and I wonder if it's still either we need to figure out how to make it break even, in my mind, or we just consider it as a gift, which we can, but we argued over $100,000 for ETN, which reaches way more people than the golf course does, and we're gonna dump nearly $250,000 into the golf on top of revenue it generates. What are some of the other options? I mean, I've heard discuss some issues about let's privatize the golf course. Let's do something different than the city running it. Where are we on some other options?
The other option, we've looked at several options, and we think the most attractive other option that we might consider looking at is the outsourcing, which we need to research some more. Cody and I have had some discussions about that already. He's coming up with some preliminary numbers on how we think he could do that. And so if we get to the slide there somewhere, I think we show, one option is a budget of some sort I recommend and believe needs to be approved, but option 2 on the slide talks about directing the city manager to come back to you guys with options and a presentation right there, with alternative options by a certain time. And I would say that time would be within a couple of weeks to a month. And then, based on what those options are, you certainly make a decision and direct us to pursue whichever one that is.
I have a comment, but go ahead, David.
Well, I mean, now's the time, Gerald. I mean, we're fixing to approve the budget. As far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't fund golf until we've at least seen those options. So we've got a couple of weeks. We need to get it done, because I'm not going to vote for the budget at all unless we see the alternatives and make a decision amongst us.
Mr. Mayor,
Right ahead.
we know that the majority of the income that we're expecting for 2016-17 this summer. So we would then budget an appropriate amount to cover expenses that the operations don't cover, which they should, because your heavy months are going to be June, July, August. Might need to budget some, but there ought to be a surplus of cash to get through the end of the year. Give Gerald time until 12/31 to finalize a deal. In the event that if that doesn't come together, then we can always come back and add more to the budget. But I think it'd be $75,000 to $100,000 figure max to get through the end of the year.
But we're going to have to budget that. We need to know now. I'm not going to wait till December, because
Well,
we're going to be right back here next May to have the same stinking discussion.
That goes back to wanting the statistics that I asked for a minute ago. If we can get those statistics, then we can back into the numbers pretty easily.
Can
So, I mean,
we
to-
budget a 6-month?
Yes.
So, I mean, David, we do have a, excuse me, losing my voice today. I think this is, I mean, it's worth exploring other options, but demanding that staff come up with something in a week. I know we've been talking about this now.
We're working on this for 2 months, man. Don't tell me it's a week.
David, the first I heard about this was 2 weeks ago. So,
Actually, we talked about it a year ago,
about coming up with an outsourcing plan?
about being a lot more efficient.
Sure, but there's a wild difference between being a lot more efficient and outsourcing.
Is there? How?
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, this is the largest park in the city of Eden. End of the day, this is a park, and all our parks cost us money. And this is, by any measure, the largest park in the city of Enid. Cody, how many people, how many individuals come through the park? Do you know off the top of your head? Ballpark, rough range?
Oh, is the whole park?
Golf park, yeah, the whole golf park, the golf park. Not the Meadow Lake, north and south.
golf
but
course.
The golf
Oh, we do
course.
close to, we do, like I said, we're projecting to do a little over 19,000 rounds.
Right, but I mean people, individuals.
Oh,
Do you have that
there-
number?
No, all I keep is who pays and plays. I mean, there's obviously high school that per our ordinance, we allow the Enid High School to practice and play. That's a lot of juniors, a lot of youth, because that's what grows, so.
But so do you have a ball?
You could add another couple thousand to that just from the high school use.
Right, but I'm trying to quantify.
One person.
Well, but no, what I'm asking is, somebody may go and play 100 rounds a year, or 50 rounds a year. I'm asking for how many individuals are.
Yeah, I don't have a system that
Okay,
would
that's
track
fine.
that.
I'm just
But I
curious.
can't, like I said, but I can tell you of the how many rounds, how many of them are members, or how many of them are paying, or how many are this.
That's
We have
fine.
that part they could help, but as far as who they are, yeah.
I mean, I guess the point I'm getting at is it's the biggest park in town. It is heavily utilized. It's the only park that makes substantial revenue to start out with. We spend a lot of money on, if you think about it that way, park maintenance and park upkeep.
I think more people visit the golf course than watch our television channel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Actually, that's not right, but we're not going to have that debate tonight. So if 10,000 people go to the golf course every year, that's $2,300 per person that we're spending of non-golfers' money so they can go play golf out there. And I'm not against the golf course. I just want it to either break even or be run by somebody else.
The
I
point-
don't think we need to.
Everybody that's playing golf pays, right?
Everybody that's, I say it again, I'm sorry?
Everybody that's paying, coming up to the desk is paying to play golf.
With the exception of the high school kids that are,
Okay.
that play. I mean,
I have another comment.
sure.
If you take cities our size, scratch out Oklahoma City and Tulsa, in the state of Oklahoma, the majority of them are subsidizing their golf courses by $200,000 to $250,000 every year. We are no different. The golf course is part of the mix of why we are so important to Northwest Oklahoma.
Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Mayor, I've talked to a lot of the municipal pros, and I do know for a fact, like Lou Wentz is who I kind of compare to Ponca City, their transfer is 260
Ponca
this
City,
year.
Bartlesville, Stillwater.
Ponca
I have
City's
talked to
transfer is
every one of them.
Ponca City's 260,000, and Sapulpa, well, Alfie's definitely know, Sapulpa's over 300,000.
That's exactly right.
Well, I think that's really a great point, but I don't think
It
that
is a
it's-
great point.
But I don't think it's worth just stopping at. That doesn't mean, oh, well, let's roll over and be inefficient because everybody else is doing it too.
I'm not saying that.
No,
It
that
just-
is what you're saying.
I'm not saying that. It just takes money to operate a golf course.
Well, it does take money,
And
but
look at
we
the
gotta
golf
be
courses in
efficient at the
Northwest
same
Oklahoma
time.
that are closing, Aaron. They're closing every day. They can't operate.
Where?
Woodward, Moreland, they've been down, they've been up.
Are they closing? I don't think they're closing. I haven't heard of any closing.
Well,
But
Morgan Springs
I
was
do
closed for
think that
2
it's
years.
worth it's at least worth a discussion to talk about efficiency.
I don't disagree with that at all.
So I haven't heard anyone say that the golf course is unimportant to the city of Enid. I think it's very important.
If you choke them to death,
If anybody up here thinks golf is important, it's going to be me. But I think it ought to be run efficiently.
I agree with you.
So, I mean, I'm not taking the stance of not funding it. I think that we ought to fund it in some capacity. But I think it ought to be done in concert with finding better efficiencies. And if we can get that done by the end of the year, then by gosh, let's fund it through the end of the year and figure out a better mechanism through which we can operate.
And Aaron, I agree with you. I just don't want to do anything, I just don't want to rush it. I think if we're exploring other options, farming out the operation or something like that, I mean, it's certainly worth looking at. I just would hate to say, by God, we're not going to pass a budget until we have this answered. And it just feels like it's something more complicated than that.
It is very complicated, but I don't want to pass a budget that allows for more money than is necessary for operations that are basically going to be cash funded through the end of the year unless we have a reason to do so. We can always come back in November or December and say, listen, we need another couple $100,000 for the golf course. And you know what? If we know that we've explored all options and it's absolutely necessary, then I don't think there's going to be a problem with that.
I'm with you.
But let's at least get through the efficiencies and feasibility study of the different options.
Mr. Brown, right now, we're actually operating two employees less than what budget is, so we're trying to do what we can for right now. The biggest issue that I talked with all my fellow PGA professionals at the municipalities is exactly what Gerald was talking about. It's the backside of the personnel, the stuff that all city government must provide the employees. That is, like I said, 70% of our budget is personnel, and it's not, and I know it stands out big on the golf, as you well know, but it's a big issue citywide as opposed to just the golf course. It just kind of, it stands out on the smaller funds, but some of that stuff's out of our, I can't, you know what I'm saying? That's one of the issues.
I agree with what you're saying. It would be so much more efficient to privatize it because we do not run employees, the city employees, leanly. They're expensive. We've got 40% or better in benefits. So, and then you add on the pension on top of that, and that, it's expensive, especially with the budgeted pension shortfall. So you could do it a lot cheaper, you or an outsourcing company. And I mean, we've got $90,000 built in right now, well, close to, with just health insurance and pension benefit. That's a lot. And I think looking at it from a different perspective makes complete sense, putting a timeline on it, allowing Gerald to do his job, work with Cody on it. We don't have to say it's not going to be funded. We can say, though, that it's going to be funded up to a certain point, and then we'll readdress it mid-year.
And certainly that does, putting a a budget trigger on that certainly ensures that we're going to talk about this again. I mean, there is that. Part of my concern, Aaron, with that, when you get into the argument about efficiency and about that we don't run employees lean, part of what we're doing is we're providing pretty good jobs. And I'm not, and at some point into the day, if what we're talking about is, do we continue to fund the golf course, or do we farm it out, means either the same folks or folks with the same job descriptions are going to be running it, but getting paid a lot less? I mean, there's a line where, I mean, is there anything really fundamentally flawed about the city, just end of the day, having some good jobs?
I don't disagree. We have good jobs.
I'm not
and
sure,
they're
yeah.
worth, you're not sure that I don't disagree with that?
No, sorry, I'm just not.
Because, I mean,
yeah.
I do agree with that very much.
With you.
But if you look here, we've got $57,000 applied to the golf course for health insurance transfer. He just said they have 7 full-time people. He or anyone else could do it a lot cheaper. So that's not saying that they aren't providing good jobs. It's not saying that the city of Enid doesn't provide. I mean, I think we do a great job providing quality jobs to staff. Not we as in the commission, but the city. But you've got $90,000 here that could be cut off the top if you privatized it, and that's a lot of money.
That'd be factored back into their.
Depends on what their benefits package looks like.
Mayor,
But they could do it a lot cheaper.
I understand that, right?
I do have one question. Are we going to look at all of our other programs and see if we can privatize them? I mean, we've got a number of other programs in the city that, that we're funding also. And is golf going to be the only one we're going to look at, or are we going to look at some other things?
Privatizing the television with the nonprofit, or?
Television, Enid Television Network, we've got the library, we've got the event center. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're bankrolling that if we're gonna just pick on golf, that's fine, but I think we need to look at these other things as well.
We've got more coming in the budget that will come up, I'm sure.
Well, in the PR department, is twice as much as we're spending on golf. And I personally think we get a lot more out of the golf course than we do for $500,000 in the PR department. Because does the television station generate a lot of revenue? Does it generate as much revenue as the golf course does? I mean, if you're looking at it like that, the golf course generates a whole lot more money than something that costs twice as much. And, I mean, Ron's right. Are we gonna do that to every single thing?
You could say,
And I'm totally with Aaron that it needs to be more efficient, because it was pretty wonky before, and I think that they've worked really hard to get that better. But this picking on golf every year is kind of getting old with me, and I mean, I get what you're saying, but Ron's right. Are we gonna pick at everything that way? Because we haven't been. This seems to just be the sticker in everybody's foot for some reason, and I don't really understand why, because it's not the only thing in our budget that could be pared down.
You know, Aaron made a good point this last year with the data. Having those numbers is really useful. I wish we had.
We will get that, you can get that tonight, right?
Sure. I wish we had that data for.
Get it. If someone gives me a computer, I can get it. I mean, it's,
No,
it's real
I'm not saying we need to have it this minute or something. I just mean I wish we had that kind of data to demonstrate the utilization of the television. I mean, that's part of the problem, Dave, and I think maybe that's the heartburn with it, and why the comparison is, as you pointed out, hard to make. We got no idea how many people are using that. And so, it's certainly hard to compare apples to pineapples.
We don't have a count on every single person that goes to our parks either. We don't have a count on all the people that
True,
go to the swimming pool.
absolutely.
The difference.
We can get the data where we can get it, but I would disagree, Tammy, that I personally have looked at every single one of these budgets, and I look at every one just like I look at golf. Golf is not something that I pick on every single year. There are some things that can generate revenue, and there's some parts of this department, the city, that can't. And to think that the only page that any of us open on here is to pick on golf every year is a completely misstatement.
Yeah, and really, the differentiating factor is there are golf courses that are self-sufficient. There aren't parks that are self-sufficient, and there aren't other things that the city does that are self-sufficient, but there are golf courses. So there is a comparison that can be made. Whether or not it's fair isn't what I'm saying, but it can be made. And so it's possible to run the golf course to actually make money or break even.
you know who these golf courses are, where they are? That are self-sufficient?
Yes? Robert Trent Jones manages a bunch of them.
Where are they located?
Mississippi, South Carolina, North Carolina, you've got courses at Oklahoma City that are self-sufficient.
Well, let's do the research
So, I mean, it can work.
about farming it out.
I'm not saying that we don't need to transfer some money. And Cody, I'm not trying to bash anything that you're doing. I'm just saying, let's look at it. Let's look at it from a different perspective. It makes sense to at least buy some time. That's kind of a play on words, to approve some sort of money to get us to a point to where we can really fully flush out the options.
Let us start by getting you statistics that you would like. We've got about a year's worth that Cody can provide.
Close to, yeah, it started June 1st, so
Okay.
we can get
Start-
close to it.
Start by getting that to you as soon as we can get it, which should be no later than either tonight or tomorrow.
That's what Aaron's asking for, I agree.
Absolutely.
Well, let's see 13 and 14, 14 and 15 numbers too, because I don't remember all these numbers, but I can almost promise you there's not a 10% difference up or down. So we're making improvements in the golf course. We haven't done a thing that I can tell in the last 4 years that I've been on the commissions, because the numbers are almost the same. It's the same every year. So all we do is we talk about it every year and nothing ever changes.
I think we are looking at privatizing a lot more things, Ron. I mean, we got a couple of things coming up, but also, Cody, the reason we look at each one, and I'm like Doc, I look at each one on its own. We're in a budget, I ain't gonna say crisis, but we have to watch every dollar now. A couple of years ago, we just threw money at everything, and now we're not doing that. So that's why we're scrutinize every little thing we can.
I
apologize for
understand.
that.
No,
We're just trying to do our job.
I haven't taken anything personal, absolutely not. One thing, if you don't mind, what I was going to say is, when I talk to is, potentially the statistic that we get from the PGA of America is about 5 to 10% of your population is golfers in a town. So like what you were talking about, when you said that, I mean, I was thinking whenever I was working for Troon, I mean, resort destinations, yeah, they make money because people travel there and it's a resort. That's a different deal. This isn't, that type of deal. This is municipal. There isn't, with strictly just our population, the number of rounds out there in Enid, that's why it's been so difficult, and it's been, 20,000 to 18.5, it's kind of, for the last 7 seasons, it's kind of stayed the same. When I talk to some of my pros in Oklahoma City, Kicking Bird, and things of that nature, even Kicking Bird, they've actually broken even or tried to make a little bit over than they have the last 3 or 4 years, but this last year they're not. And they run a whole lot more revenue, and they've got, 1 million people around them. So it's hard to compare. Like you said, you're right, the Oklahoma City courses can, but there's thousands and thousands of more golf course people to choose from. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Well,
it's just it's a challenge here, and that's the thing. It's kind of frustrating for me.
I figured that would probably be the argument back, but I intentionally didn't say Pheasant Run and Turkey Creek because they're in our backyard.
Sure.
They're privately owned, and they operate at a profit, or at least I think they do. They try to.
I don't know.
So I hope they do, because they're still opening their doors.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it can be done, and it's just worth pursuing.
Yeah, sure. It's one of the things, like I said, I'll work with Gerald, and we'll discuss it. The thing is, like you said, though, and I'll just kind of leave it with this, and I think everybody understands, is they operate on a different set of rules that we have. And that right there is, and that's the big factor of our budget.
But they also pay for utilities and other things that you don't.
Our utilities are on the budget. We pay our utilities. 31,000 or 30,000.
Talking about water.
Water.
Oh, I was saying we pay. I see the electric and gas. We pay the utilities. Absolutely.
So your biggest
It goes
expense
to the
would
budget.
be water.
Sure.
So
Well, and that's
covered
out of
by
my
the city.
understanding. That's out of my sure.
it allows you a competitive advantage.
Sure.
That's on top of the $250,000 that we're funding.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, we'll
Any
get some
questions
numbers
for
and
me?
we will
Yeah.
come back.
We do have somebody signed up to speak. Bob Adamson. Please speak into the mic, Bob, and give us your name and address, please.
Bob Adamson, 4408 Briar Ridge Road, Oklahoma. Going through the gist of what I've heard today, I really wasn't going to say anything. I'm just going to go ahead and pass. But there's one thing that has not been brought up in this discussion today, and that's what I would call the residual income to the city. The hotel motel tax, the restaurant sales tax. Meadow Lake's attracting an awful lot right now, due to Michael and his crew keeping the course in good shape. a lot of tournaments that are bringing people from out of state. That's got to be considered through any course of the budget talks. If you outsource it, that may still be there. Don't know. But that residual income is sitting out there. It does come in. Being retired, I have a unique situation. I traveled through through around Meadow Lake during the 2 high school tournaments that were out there just last few weeks. And a lot of the parents did stay in a hotel. And I even asked them what they thought of the golf course, and one of them said, "I wish ours was in this good a shape." But that's fine. We're proud of that golf course. All the members are. But I think that's one item that needs to be considered for anything that you do, is that residual income that's coming in from the hotel motel tax and the rest sales tax, as not only restaurants but also through the pro shops and the snack bar and the other gift shops in town. So again, I wasn't going to say anything unless we got into a heated argument. That did not happen, so I'll sit down.
Thank you.
Mayor, one other thing I might mention here, have we had any recommendation from our golf course advisory board? We've got a golf course advisory board. Have we heard anything from them, Gerald?
Bob Adamson is on that board, so.
So I think we did.
Is that board?
I can say a few things on that.
We twist your arm a little bit.
Twist my arm on that one. Our advisory board looks at the budget. We say thank you every time we see it. We really do. What I've been able to ascertain is that whenever something is brought up as to the conditions that could be hazardous to the employees primarily, one of the things, I bring it up, I said, make sure the minutes show that, because I know the minutes get down to City Hall. One of those took place 3 years ago, and it's just now looked like it's coming to a resolution. And that has bothered me tremendously, because not only was it a threat to equipment, computers, but people's health. And that's the maintenance shed. And say this year, I was watching the commission meeting on TV. Yes, a few people do watch it. And I said, oh, they're taking care of it. It's not enough money, but they're looking into it. He's writing my name. And then my wife was sitting next to me, and she said, what's wrong? And I said, they're finally listening. And that's great. But there's other things, too, that we are doing. We make ourselves available. Only the members know about us. The people that play every day don't know who's on the advisory committee. Most of them are out there just to drink their beer and play golf and have a good time, and they're doing that. But the members know who we are, and we make ourselves available to hear their complaints. And then we run the complaints to Cody, and if it's something that he can handle on site, he does. If it's with the maintenance people, whatever, it's taken care of. They don't even move down any direction. But we are there. We do review the minutes and the budget. And again, we say thank you for it. We do bring up questions sometimes on the budget. But they've always been answered, and sometimes they get resolved too. So, but we are doing something on that.
I think what we've discussed is very important, and we need to pursue that. The golf course is very important, in my mind, to the mix of the city of Enid, Oklahoma. We've got to find a way to make it work. Wait just a minute, Tammy. We've got to find a way to make it work. We're smart enough to do that. Cody, wait a minute. Tammy had a question.
I was trying to figure out which line it was because I can't see. But so advertising for the golf course is $2,500 a year. Is that right?
Yes, and I cut it. It was actually less, we were at 4,000 at one point, and that was one of the things I cut last year of this last budget.
We're only spending $2,500 a year in advertising. That might be part of the problem. And we have a television thing, maybe we need to put some commercials for the golf course on the television channel. But that's a very, very, very tiny advertising budget. I mean, I have a very tiny, small business that is just me, and I probably spend more than that a year on advertising for stuff I do, and I certainly don't have near the budget the golf course has.
Tammy, I think that's a point very, very well made, actually. I wonder if that's something that our marketing and PR department should handle for the golf course.
$2,500 a year. I mean, it's $400 or $500 to put one ad in the newspaper for a minute. I mean, it's, advertising is so expensive. I can't imagine $2,500 would get very far at all.
Well, are you able to trade out advertisements for sponsorships or anything like that?
Yeah, that's why I hesitated when Mayor asked me that question, but there's some, we've done some things with the event center. If you've been to the event center, they actually have a, on their board, the outside board, it says Meadow Lake, and then if you go actually inside the facility, going down one of the stairwells, they got a really nice thing about Meadow Lake. So the advertising dollars that, I actually worked with Keller, I need to meet with the new gentleman, but we did that, and we keep track as well on the new point of sale, that's trade. It says trade on there, so we know, are we getting the dollar for what we're getting? Also, the radio, I have a lot of people that tell me they've talked to me in regards to the radio, and that's how I've had to get creative, like you were talking, Commissioner, was it's tough because I basically have to pick two things that I want to use for advertising that pretty much takes it up. I mean, so, but we do have a golf course to help with that. So I've done some of that with the radio. That bids for bargains, I think you've heard on the KOFM and things of that nature, they'll, you know, we'll donate a couple rounds of golf, and for that time they'll do a commercial spot. So I've done some other things that I can, as creative as I can, being within the realms that we've been given. So.
Does the golf course have its own Facebook page?
Yes. 750 some odd likes, and we've had about 30 to 40 reviews. We've got 4.5 out of 5. I use social media a lot. We have Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I try to use that as much as I can because obviously that's as free advertising as we can get. So if no one has liked the page, please do, because then you can see, because I put on everything that's going on. Occasionally I'll put a funny cartoon up there or something that's, you know, that kind of gets people laughing. But if you don't mind real quick, Mayor, one thing I wanted to say, I kind of want to brag on it just a little bit. This last year when he was talking about the high school, we actually were selected, and it always happens in the city courses. But we were actually selected by the OSSAA to host the 6A West Regional State Qualifier at Meadow Lake, which is unheard of to do that. Oakwood Country Club back in the early 90s hosted state, but that's what people think of our golf course. We had all 16 schools from the west side, 6A schools, that were there. They were there doing practice rounds Sunday. They paid for their practice rounds. Parents played. I know they stayed over, and then it was 36 holes, so that was a great thing. Northwestern Oklahoma State University now was using Woodward, and that's why I didn't want to get into it. They used to use Boiling Springs, and something happened with Boiling Springs. I don't know what it is, but we were their host site for the Northwest Oklahoma State University. It's a 3-day deal, and there's teams that come in from New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, Arkansas. I mean, they're from everywhere, and they're here for 3 days, and some parents and family, and they're staying. So there's some good things that we are doing, and I completely understand your concerns, but I still think there's a lot of things that's positive. And maybe I'm being biased because it's my little fish in the pond, you know, but I want to make sure that, I want to let y'all know that's what's going on. And both of them, you know, they're going to put in for the West 6A next year, but we are having again in October the Northwestern thing again. So they wanted to come back. They said, will you allow us back? I said, absolutely. So,
Cody, this is a very unfortunate venue for you right now because all we're talking about is money.
Sure.
We're not talking about things that are positive, and it's not fair.
Sure.
Because you guys do a good job, and the golf course is in great shape, and it is a tremendous asset to the city. So don't psychoanalyze what's going on up here.
I understand.
We appreciate what you're doing very much, and it's just about money.
I understand that. And I should have said, I meant to say that before, and then I got sidetracked, and then I forgot. And then when Mr. Adamson said that.
I love
I was like,
coming
wait a
out.
minute, I want to tell him I wanted to
I
emphasize what he's
personally
talking about.
enjoy coming out and playing golf there, so.
Tammy, I'll go back to your comment. I think it's well taken. Took a long time to get back to it, but it's well taken to spend only $2,500.
so little to
And maybe that is something that needs to be in the mix with the city marketing and public relations department.
We can certainly look at that and
Think
try
about
to
it.
do whatever we can to help there.
You ready to move on?
And just to note, there have been shows there before, because I remember when Steve wore the funny pants and we were in it, Cody, and he came out there, and so
I do have one other question, and it's purely maybe a slip of my memory, but did we do the outhouse toilet? Has that been done?
has
That
not
was a $60,000 request last year, right?
it was not funded in the budget, which
We
is
have a
why we
porta
didn't
potty.
do it.
On one of the tee boxes.
And we did actually agree that we needed to come back and visit about that at some point.
We did.
So what is our plan with that?
Well, the plan right now is I think we have porta potties out there. Is that, Cody, what do we have out there? Anything?
The front nine, the front nine's still functional. That one still works. The only reason the back nine doesn't, it was vandalized. It was at one of those cold winters and it got burnt. Someone got inside there and tried to stay warm and it caught fire. It just vandalized, and that's the only reason it's not functioning. So it wasn't, I mean, yes, they're old. I think they were done in the late 80s or something. I don't quote me on that, or early 90s, but that's the only reason why it's just not functional. It was burnt. Luckily, the fire department got there in enough time so it wasn't a bigger disaster, because there's a lot of trees around there, so. But yeah, it was just vandalized and burnt. That's why it's not functioning. But the front nine, there is one. The back nine, and that's the problem, is our nines for those is one side, the east side or the west side covers only the front. The back nine, the restrooms are half a mile apart. So if there was even a way we could have one where both come together, it's just not feasible how it's designed and laid out. That's why they're there. So
I think we ought to look at the efficiencies and the options, and if there's a way to build that in, I don't want to complicate our budget cycle right now any more than it already is. Rodney's looking at me like, you sucker. So, but, I do think that if we can find a more efficient way of operating, that ought to be something that we include in capital improvements.
I have played there. It's not a very first-class look.
No, and it's a first-class golf course, so we need to.
I mean, the porta potty on the 14th tee box, that's not a good look.
Better than a bush.
I'd rather spend $60,000 on that than $90,000 on health insurance and pension, so.
All right.
Anyone else? Aaron?
We need to move
Yeah.
agenda items.
Aaron, is there anything else we're talking about in this section today?
Unless there's any place they want to revisit this meeting.
I didn't hear what you were talking about.
We were in the general fund, city, golf, CIP, anything we've already talked about with the exception of authorities section. If there's anything you want to revisit now, we can. We'll have another opportunity tomorrow. The next section takes us into EPTA, which is the next.
Okay.
Anything we can capture tonight, we would like the opportunity to do that so that we can bring you back a list of revisions that we have to this point tomorrow evening, so.
Get a chance to look at the credit card situation?
Yes, we've begun looking at that, at the legality, and it is legal to add a convenience fee. So for municipalities, and at least for certain fees, so we're beginning to look at that now and see, we have different ways of paying for the credit cards. We have credit card terminals at the city clerk window and the court clerk window. Andrea's going to look into whether or not we can do that with the court clerk stuff, because that's fines and such. But as far as the utility payments and garage sale permits, we can take that. We've got to look at those terminals and the company that handles that at the window, as well as our online provider, and there's probably others I'm not even thinking about. Right now, we've been consumed with budget stuff, but we are looking at that, and we intend to.
Kind of budget was $87,000.
Is it what?
It was $87,000, that's part of the budget.
Absolutely, and I think as we look at that, you had a kind of a rough breakdown. That whole $87,000, part of that is for bank bill fees. that with our express bill pay online provider, if you pay either with an e-check or if you pay just from your Tinker Federal Credit Union or whoever you bank with in town, that we work with an exchange with express bill pay to where those payments come in and we can upload them automatically. They'll charge us a fee. I don't know what it is because there's a set schedule for those things. Those kind of things, I don't know if we can add fees to that or not. That's what's got to be researched, but that's hard to do because that's done not even through the city, it's through your bank paying to the city. And it actually helps us with our efficiency because if we don't do that through express bill pay, we don't get the automatic upload. We would be getting, I don't know how it would come in, like it used to where it has to be input manually.
I bought a permit in Oklahoma City today with a credit card and it cost me $3 convenience fee.
Oklahoma City? No, we're looking into it, Commissioner. If you're expecting for us to have a solution for that, I don't think we're going to be able to have that before budget time, because even if we determined that we could exchange express bill pay right now, it's going to take time getting with the express bill pay provider. The credit card terminals, those are probably going to be faster to change out. So we are looking at it, and I don't know what the time frame is. I mean, again, we've been consumed with budget stuff, but we are looking at it. We intend to bring that back to you for you to make that decision. Currently, we have been absorbing those fees, and so that will be a change. We would communicate to the public and put up signs, and the methods at the window and online, it would clearly state that what the change is and what the fee is, and then the portion that we can't recapture, we wouldn't recapture. So I can't tell you how much of that 87,000 we could recapture, but it's probably a significant portion of it.
With all due respect, I understand that you can't have the answer right away, but you're asking us to approve an $87,000 expense for something that probably isn't fully necessary. So that, in reverse, is a pretty big responsibility to ask of us. So how do we come up with some common ground to where you have the time that you say that you need, but we're not being asked to approve such a large amount?
The budget takes effect July 1st. We should be able to have answers, and if you want us to charge a fee, be able to have a fee potentially in effect for at least the credit card terminals at the window before July 1st. I don't know about express bill pay because that's going to take, they're going to have to do some programming stuff. So I think what you're asking is, do we want to budget a lesser amount? Potentially we could. We could take that amount out. But we're going to incur a certain amount of fees over time. I don't have the answer for how much those fees are going to be yet. Could we absorb them somewhere else? Yes, we probably could.
Are we just talking about a standard fee for using a credit card?
Yes, sir. We're talking about fees that get charged that when you go to Walmart, if you use a credit card, Walmart's charged a fee. If you go to Oklahoma City and pay online or something, Oklahoma City pays a fee, but they're charging a $3 fee for something. If you go to the county to pay your property taxes, if you pay it by a credit card, they charge a convenience fee. I think it's 3% or 2% or something like that.
It's not a flat fee.
Right. These are fees that we have been incurring since the day that we started taking credit card fees. And so certainly we understand this is important and we're looking to try and implement it, but it can't be implemented in a day or 2 weeks. But it can, we can adjust the budget, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I hesitate. I can't remember what page that's on, but it's $87,000 in the records in Linda's department.
Yes.
I hesitate to leave that amount in as an expense with the expectation that it probably isn't going to occur in full, thereby overfunding it by 40, 50 grand. So,
Well, then we first have to make a decision. We're going to charge a fee. We haven't made a decision, have we?
no.
Well, That's what we're trying to figure out, what our options are there. And and I asked this before, debit cards and credit cards aren't the same
That's right.
thing. And so if everybody that hands you a card and you're being charged a credit card fee for, you might not be getting charged correctly either, because I pay with my debit card when I come here all the time, and nobody's ever asked me if it's a credit card or a debit card. So if every time I hand you my card, you're getting charged a credit card fee, that's not right either on the other end, because it's not a credit card. And there's a difference, and Linda said there's a difference in the cost between debit cards and credit cards. So I think we need to figure that out, because most people probably pay their bills with a debit card. Most people don't pay their household bills with a credit card. I'm sure there are some that do, but I'm guessing a lot of the cards that get handed to you are probably debit cards.
Use a credit card.
It's the other way around.
I get the points.
History has it the other way around, Tammy.
Can we
I
go
don't
into
know.
those?
I'm saying, I try not to put too much stuff on credit.
That's why
My
the city
comment
ends up
is-
getting charged
But-
for it, is because I want the points.
My comment is, you better look into it, you better be cautious.
But they're different things.
Because
and
the
if
two
we're paying-
best marketers in the world are Visa and MasterCard. You need to be cautious.
If we're paying the same amount for debit cards as your credit cards, we might be getting overcharged.
You're not.
But we are, because they're not differentiating when somebody comes and pays.
I think,
So that's what I'm saying, is we may be overpaying when we don't need to.
Could be.
You can use the same card and it could either be credit or debit, depending on how you designate it. I mean, the
Right.
card I've got,
But
they
if-
can
if
charge
they
you either way.
But if the company charges the city $2 for every debit card transaction and $3 for every credit card transaction, the city may be overpaying by a lot if they're not differentiating when someone hands them a card, is what I'm saying.
It's
We may
basic.
be paying a whole lot more than we need to in credit card fees, because they may not all be credit cards.
It's based on the percentage and not a.
the fee is not the same, and I think at the window, you can differentiate if you want to pay debit or credit. Now, I never pay with the
I've
credit
never
card
been
at the window.
There is a
Do
difference.
you pay at the window with?
I've paid 1 billion parking tickets.
but I don't think-
So never ask me if it's debit or credit.
You want to cut that to $500,000?
I don't think that's, I don't think that fee is something that is not preset, though. I think depending on the card that you use, it's a percentage of that transaction
That's
that then
exact-
goes back as a credit card fee. And, I mean, that adds up to $87,000. It's a very
But it's a
respectable amount due to the volume, but I think that charging a fee to offset that makes pretty good sense.
But until we make that decision, I mean, for the sake of budgeting, shouldn't we budget the worst-case scenario and then come back if we're going to change the policy
Well, you know what?
separately, and then,
Yeah, I guess
and then
maybe
adjust the budget at that point?
You're probably right, because even if we charge a fee to cover it, we're still gonna have the expense of the credit card.
And then we just have it as income. And the reason I bring that up is, you're right, it is a percentage of the transaction, but the last time we talked about it, somebody said that there are different fees for debit cards and credit cards, so the percentage even could be higher for a credit card than it is a debit card. In the end, we're still maybe overpaying, so I think we need to look at that and see because we may be overpaying way more than we need to be paying in the first place. And I totally agree, we could charge a fee, because, even if you pay for something, if you take a PayPal payment, PayPal even takes a percentage. Every transaction nowadays, there's a fee for.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea, a good point that you made, Commissioner Brownlee. You're right, we are going to have to budget an item for that, but probably for us to move forward, we probably need to figure out if we're going to do that, and we do that through a vote. You guys will move forward and do that as expeditiously as we can, post the notices and make the changes.
I still think we need to be very cautious.
We
We're
will.
the only ones not doing it, Mayor.
Can't be
Yeah.
We're the only ones not charging.
Municipalities are treated different than retail, Mayor.
I don't think,
That's the way it sounds.
Yes, that's
Commissioner Tim, I don't know.
Retailers are not allowed.
All
to
I'm
charge
saying
a
is, check it out, please.
fee. Yes, Mayor.
We could make it strictly cash.
I tell you what,
It's a vehicle
we'd
to
lose
take
a lot
the
of fine
thing.
money if we
It's
tried
only a
that.
vehicle.
No, if we're losing $87,000, we say cash only.
Shut them
We
off.
make $87,000 just like that.
Oh, we wouldn't. There'd
Why
be a
wouldn't
lot
we?
of people that wouldn't pay they wouldn't have any other way of paying their fine.
They're getting charged when they're getting the money out of any time bank.
Yeah, but if they come here and use their credit card, they don't have to pay it within the next.
We will bring that information back as soon as we can with credit card schedules and fees, and we need to look at a comparison of other communities too, see what they're doing.
I agree.
We'll bring that back for your consideration as soon as we can, as soon as possible.
Anything else before we move on? Item 3, we'll recess to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item 4, the trustees of the Enid, all of the trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority special meeting are in attendance. Item 5, the Enid Public Transportation Authority special meeting is now in session. Item 6, discuss and take necessary action on the fiscal year 2016-2017 Enid Public Transportation Authority financial. Aaron.
This one's on page 188. There's been one revision since the draft that you received, and that's as a result of the meeting last week. You approved an application for a 5339 grant for some buses for the Transit Authority last week. And so this is the increase in grant revenue that we're expecting to go with that of $95,000. Our match on that would be $16,800, and so the expenditure to add those two buses is $112,000. Both of the buses that we're looking to replace, hopefully with this grant funding, if it comes through, are buses that have over 150,000 miles on it. One's a 2006 and one's a 2012, and it's time for us to remove those from the fleet and get them replaced. We've seen some increased expense in vehicle maintenance due to some of those older fleet.
How many buses do we have in our fleet?
There are 16 right now, so would we remove 2 and replace them with newer?
And then do they get surplused out and sold for some?
We'll sell them, and then we have to
75 cents or whatever.
give back whatever we make to DHS or ODOT, whoever provided the grant funding to begin with, and then they give us back the percentage of what we had paid for them originally, that's 17 or 15%. So
Do they determine if we need new buses, or our decision?
we apply for grant funds. They compile all that from like the state and look and see how many they can buy with their bulk discount purchases, and then allocate out the grant funds to all of those places that have put in the grant funding requests. So we may only get approved for 1, but we've put in for 2.
Are all 16 buses in working order?
14 of them are right now. These 2 that we're looking to replace are right now being used for parts and some repairs and things like that that we need
And
to.
what is the model year of our newest buses?
I think I do have that. Beth, do you know that off the top of your head? 2014s? I think we got 2 in 2014.
Those are the vans, not the buses, right?
Right. Right. And so overall with that, we're showing that revenue would be increased to $799,230 for the year, as opposed to what was originally presented in your budget. That would also increase the transfer to $423,230 to fund our match on that grant. Personnel, we have an increase for next year of $48,000. The majority of that is due to the 27th payroll, but we've also added 1 part-time driver position to cover the hours that we need to for the operation, and that's about $18,000 of that $48,000 of increase for this next year. Contractual services, there's a decrease overall due to lower liability insurance from OMAG. And then we have maintenance and operations that's decreasing by $11,000. We have overall decrease in fuel with a slight increase in vehicle maintenance because of the aging of the fleet. Capital outlay is just the $112 for those 2 buses, and that is the budget as presented. And so any questions that we have, discussion we have on.
How many hours a week do our part-time drivers work?
28.
28.
How many people ride the buses?
Mary Beth address that.
Please be sure to speak into the mic.
Excuse me.
just a moment here. I don't have that written down, but on average of what we do, they provide those to me on a weekly basis. They count them daily. We run around anywhere from 100 people a day or 100 trips to approximately 175 trips a day. That's going to average out to, when I'm pulling numbers, is anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 trips a month. And then I'll let you add from there.
Is that 7 days a week?
We run 6 days a week.
It's $2 a ride?
Yes, sir. It varies for the people that get on and make their appointment for the trip the day before. It is $2 a trip. If they call the day of, it's $5 a trip.
So you generate $40,000 worth of revenue at $2 a piece. That's 20,000 rides. But you're telling me you're doing 40,000 rides. So we got a bunch of people riding free, or where's the difference in the dollars? And that's
Yes.
at $2, not $5. At $5, it gets much worse than that.
We do have a few that ride free, yes, because I believe we had a general manager that had made some free ride tickets, and so we tried to put that out as advertisement and encourage people to ride with us. But I'm not going to tell you that we have 20,000 of them.
When you make a call, or someone makes a call to get a ride, and it's per person, if there's 5 people get on there, or 1 person get on there, is it?
We can have several get on at one time. We
But
may
they're
have,
each charged individually?
yes. Children under 11 are not charged.
How long has this been our charge? I mean, the $2 and the $5, has that been that way for quite a while, or?
I'm not sure of that. That's been a charge for quite a number of years, as far as I know, from what I've looked back and seen. I don't have that information. We are one of the transits across the state that do charge a higher charge. Usually you see them anywhere from 50 cents to $1.75 or so.
Mary Beth, why don't you explain the 5311 grant calculation too, that we do just from the perspective of, you put in the expenses that are eligible, it's based on revenue mileage. Doesn't that fee that we charge and that money collected for those same rides come off of whatever grant we receive?
Yes, our fares are deducted from that amount that I submit and request on a monthly basis, and that's also done on a yearly basis when we request those funds. So that is taken, and what they call a fare box revenue.
How many private pay type people, if you roughly know, do we normally have? Because those are the people that could be impacted by the fare if we charge a different fare for them, which we currently don't. I don't think. We just charge $2, right?
Yes, sir.
So we provide rides that we're reimbursed through the 5311 grant. I think there's also a DHS.
We're reimbursed on 5311
Which is ODOT.
by miles. And we're 2 to 3 years behind that as well. We don't receive, they're looking at the miles from 2 to 3 years ago, not from this previous year. So it's based on that. That's why it's gone down so much. The numbers of trips have gone down. The number of miles have gone down. And so the number of dollars that we've received have gone down from that as well. So on that, it's more miles that they look at. We are in town. We don't travel outside of town. And the number of trips that we provide, we do a lot since we are in town. It's just the miles are smaller. So they take all that into consideration.
And if I understood it, what you're saying is whatever we charge is going to be deducted, so we don't make any money by charging?
We keep the money. It's just, it's put into a, put into a program that we have with ODOT. And so they deduct that out when they go to present us reimbursement on our money that we are allocated, which it really doesn't make a lot of difference. We run out of money from ODOT before the year ends, since we don't receive very much from them. Because when we present them with our claims on a monthly basis, then we get the reimbursement at a percentage back from that.
This is a very complicated accounting problem.
So if we doubled our fees, though, we wouldn't make any more money.
We could possibly, yes, sir. And, we've discussed that. That's just a question that, could people afford it?
Well, and if we are
If they're
running
deducting
fewer,
it, though, from what they pay us.
I'm sorry?
They're deducting what we receive from what they pay us. Doesn't sound like to me we're gonna come out with very much.
Not from them, no, sir.
well, and then if we decrease rides, I mean, we're decreasing miles traveled overall, and that impacts our grant funding. And
Exactly, yes, sir.
it's the weirdest calculated budget number.
This one is, it's much like golf and the same thing. We've had, this is third year discussed, that there are some areas in the city of Enid budget where revenue is generated that it's not unreasonable to make the expectation that it ought to at least break even. The city's not in the business of making money, but it ought to break even. This is another area that it should, and again, just like golf, the overwhelming expense is personnel. And the revenue generated by the actual process of giving rides at whatever we charge is minimal compared to, the grant is more money, and the contract service is way more than the $2 we get from each person. But again, it begs the question that the city is probably, any government is the least capable to run a business that could be run in the private sector easier, better, more efficiently, more hours. And again, we've had this discussion about privatizing or doing something else that might actually improve the service to the community by giving them longer hours and more availability, maybe newer buses. I don't know what all would happen if we privatized it. So where are we on that? Why are we not deciding that? We're approving a budget that's exactly the same as it was last year and the year before that and the year before that. And so we're do nothing. It's like we spin our wheels up here and we talk about let's do better in these departments, and absolutely nothing happens.
But this one isn't like golf, David. This is providing a service. This is, I know you see them as the same thing, but at the end of the day, this is providing a service to a population in Enid that has no other option for transportation. The other part that this doesn't capture, as was pointed out with golf, is the revenue generated by these trips. So if the only way I can get to the grocery store is take a trip through EPTA, and I go to do my groceries, that trip, I may spend $100 on groceries, and that will generate some sales tax. I'm not saying it's ever going to break even. I just mean it's difficult to calculate. The bigger revenue generator for, I expect, rides are, and my understanding is from talking to Mary Beth and some other folks in the community, are that a lot of folks use the public transit authority as their only way to get to and from doctor's appointments and hospital and all that. That generates a lot of business for the city of Enid. But more importantly, it is not, public transportation is not something that any community is making a lot of money on, or most communities don't break even. Nobody breaks even on public transportation. It's a service that you provide as the cost of doing business. This is part of what makes us a viable town, especially for older folks and disabled folks. And it's just going to cost money. It is, but it's a necessity.
I respond to that.
Go ahead, because
Ben, I'm not arguing about the necessity or the viability of having public transportation. You can go back and watch the meeting tonight that was just recorded, and not one word out of my mouth came that said that we need to get rid of this. What I said was city governments are the absolute worst place to run anything efficiently or at a cost. We're basically moving 5,000 people around this community at the cost of whatever it is per ride. That's what it costs us to take care of these people. I think there's other people that can do that more efficiently, and that's what I want to see happen. We can't do it, partially because of the exact same situation with golf, the overhead because of personnel costs. When you factor in the city benefit package is huge. And I think somebody else could do that better. At least we need to look at that, because year over year, we've done nothing. I didn't say we shouldn't have public transportation. I wish we had the best taxi service, in the country here in Enid, because that would solve it. We wouldn't be having this discussion if people had some other way to get a ride besides depending on the city. Right now, that's it. But there are other organizations that I think we've discussed, I missed that meeting, but that could take this over and do it as well and not cost out of our budget nearly the funding that we're putting in there.
I guess the argument I'm making in response to that, and I apologize if it didn't come through, is that no one makes money running public transportation. And it's not that there's somebody that can do it better, and it's maybe not that the city is perfect, but that the city is the only entity that can run a public transportation authority, that by its nature, municipalities run public transportation authorities everywhere because nobody else can.
There's already two in Enid besides us doing it now.
They're not doing the same thing, Rodney.
They take our overload.
But that's not,
They're getting grants from the DOT just like we are. But they're able to make more money because they go outside the city limits. They get the broader view. We're kind of limited. We can't make money because we just stay in the city. If we took someone from a city and back, I guess I've heard that works, the mile thing again. But so much equipment just for the city limits, you can't make it work. These other people that come in here, they go over the state or wherever their region is.
On top of that, Rodney, there are 3 different entities that are competing for the same grant money.
Right.
They all have separate expenses, so there's some economies to scale if that could be reached if you don't increase your expenses but have access to greater grant money.
and I suppose that if that is the case, my assumption, and I would love for somebody to prove me wrong, honestly, is that the reason those other entities function is because they go after the low-hanging fruit. They go after the easy miles, easy money, easy grant, and that what we are providing is not the low-hanging fruit. We're providing the difficult, inconvenient, challenging service that they would never in a million years go after, because there's no way that these folks who make money on the long-distance trips can step into our shoes and provide a functional system without hemorrhaging money even worse than we are. And if somebody could prove me wrong, I'd love to see it. I mean, I really would. If I challenge anybody with one of these other companies to demonstrate a model where we write a smaller transfer out, from the general fund, and they provide the same level of service or better for less money. But I just don't believe it would happen.
Have we got someone that's offered to do this?
We have talked to the Cherokee Strip Transit Company, and I guess Cimarron is the other one that's out of, is that Ponca City?
MAGB.
Magby's another one. We're just in initial discussions with them to determine whether this is something that they could do, would do. If so, what would their hours be, all that stuff. We do not have all those answers today. So obviously, I think we need to probably work on that and bring those answers back for you at some point very soon so that you can consider in your discussion here. This is going to be much like golf in that I think we're going to need some sort of budget of some amount prepared, and it might be along the lines of our federal fiscal year, because our ODOT grants are based on the federal fiscal year that started in October. And as Mary just said, typically that grant is expired by July or August anyway. So we'll do that, and we'll get some information back to you as soon as possible. And what I mean by the money is used up for the grant by July or August typically, I think, or maybe it's September, I don't know. But that's what I think we're trying to say. So
I'm like Dr. Van Hooser, though. I don't want us to give up the service. I think we need to provide the service, and if somebody else can do it cheaper, then I think we definitely ought to explore that possibility.
Well, I really enjoyed the meeting we had when everybody came and spoke on that.
Yep.
And what they really needed was an hour earlier, an hour later, or 2 hours later. We can't service what they need now.
That's what I wanted to ask too, is explain to me why. I know, I get that when you expand your services, you expand your expenses as far as personnel and all that goes. Explain to me why we cannot run in the evenings, on the weekends, is similar to a taxi service, or why we can't do shuttles from the event center to the hotels when we have concerts. I mean, there are so many things that I feel like we should be able to do, and I don't understand why we can't. And I know, Joan and I had a conversation before about even looking into we have some out-of-commission police cars that aren't being used that we could maybe turn into part of our fleet that wouldn't cost us anything as far as that goes, except a paint job. I mean, I don't know, I don't understand why we can't why we can't expand our services in order to create more revenue. I mean, I understand there's some cost involved, but is there a reason we can't do that other than personnel?
I was just gonna say that when we ran a fixed route system, we ran into a whole lot more issues with being able to do that, and those were just,
No, I
whether
don't
it was or
think we should
wasn't
ever do a
allowed.
fixed route system.
No,
I
no,
think
no.
that was the dumbest thing we ever did.
I mean deviating from the fixed route to do something special. There are more restrictions on that. We're not on that fixed route system anymore, and I can't answer it further than that. I mean, I just don't have the answers. But I do know that when we had the fixed route system, and then when you use the buses for something other than your fixed route, then you run into problems, especially when you have grants and things like that. So we did have issues then. Now, I'm not sure what the answer is.
I mean, that would be, maybe.
Because if we could have a taxi service just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think, I mean, even if we just did it part of the week or something, because we have no Uber, no Lyft, no taxi, no buses, we have nothing for like people that don't need it for medical bills, just people that want to go out on a weekend. We have nothing for those people that desperately want some kind of a taxi service in this town. I mean, I have people mention that all the time, and every time we go anywhere, somebody says, man, I wish Enid had Uber, or man, I can't believe a town this size doesn't have a taxi service. Is there not some way we can capitalize on that with what we have?
What I think she's referring to is the charter services. ODOT refers to it as charter. That's not your big buses and that sort of thing. It's when you put multiple people on a vehicle and you charge one price for that.
Charge individually.
To be honest, that's what we are doing, and I will see how much I overstep my boundaries with ODOT on that, because we have provided several charter services that don't really look that way because they've been free of charge, and I believe Mr. Mayor Shuey got to utilize that service at the Speaker's Ball, where we have been able to go to the event center. We've been up at Autry with some groups up there and help provide transportation. We cannot do that at a cost, though. So in answer to your question earlier, Commissioner Van Hooser, yes, we're back to the free rides again, because we're trying to do something for the community and show that we are out there and what we need to do. But we do have one coming up, a charter service for a wedding that's utilizing 4 of the hotels in town, and we will be putting people from each of those hotels to take them out to 81 Ranch and provide transportation for that situation as well later this year. And that'll probably use 4 or 5 of our buses. And again, it will extend beyond hours. And so I have stepped way out there to do that with ODOT, and I'm hoping that when we present our new application to them, when they see the routes, that we can do that and spread that and make it to where we can provide more people transportation opportunities without being under the charter requirements.
So when you say charter, you mean where you get like 20 people on the bus and there's one fee charged to some, and so why don't you charge each one of those people an individual fee? Doesn't that get around that?
That's what we're going to try later this year with the group that's coming in. So
Wait, but so you're saying that legally we can do it if we charge by the head?
because it would just be doing the same thing that we are.
But so we don't have to stick to our normal hours. We can set special hours for special events and special times.
I did
and not run afoul of ODOT or anything?
I did find a route in our system that we have with ODOT that says that we are before, that it's before our allotted hours that we have set with ODOT, because we specify that we will run from 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock of an evening. 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. We do have some dialysis patients that need to go on at 5:30 in the morning, and so we are trying to provide transportation for them. And so we can utilize that route and count them in our ODOT under that new route that I've discovered under that.
But I mean, just forget the ODOT money. We just use our excess vehicles or different vehicles or the vehicles that are out of service for that day and go do whatever we want using our staff. Can we do that? Is what I'm, and maybe that's the Andrea question is.
No, I think we can do that, but Andrea, do you?
And I don't have the exact answer to that, but I can say that it won't matter if it's an off-duty vehicle or an off-duty person that you're bringing back in or whatever. Because it's all run under EPTA. If you're using EPTA in any way that goes outside of the bounds that what we're allowed to do, then it's going to be a violation. So
could we
to go back to that first question, which is, I don't have the answer to that today.
So could we create a separate entity that's not through the Public Transportation Authority, but it's still something run by the city?
Yes, but
it's just not through the authority.
Yes, it just couldn't use the EPTA vehicles.
And all the vehicles
So
are
we
EPTA
have-
vehicles.
But we have these other out-of-commission vehicles that we could consider maybe possibly.
That I don't know, but
Yes,
I
we
think
do.
Gerald would know
We
that.
do. We do have old police cars that we could use. One of the things that we would really have to look at is we would need to hire a driver for a certain period of time.
Well, but can we share?
And they won't be ADA compatible either.
I get, and this isn't the time to work out
Exactly.
logistics, but I mean, clearly in the middle of this, but if there's a way to bring some additional money in that is using the same people and the same software, the same scheduling apparatus under a different entity, and we can generate a little additional revenue, then, I mean, we should at least figure out if that's even feasible, right?
I feel like we're tying our own hands on this deal because I feel like we have all these other options that people want. And I've heard a lot of people say it's the same thing you said about the hours. They, need another hour in the morning or another hour in the evening. I just feel like our hands are tied so much with only being this long and, you have to call ahead. And I know a lot of people don't like that either. And I know that we've tried a lot of different things and you're not going to make everybody happy no matter what you do. But I just feel like there are so many options and so many things that Enid needs, and we have the capability to meet it. We have to figure out how to do it. I mean, because I
also wonder if
we're just tying ourselves up, and that doesn't make sense to me.
I also wonder if there's, this is not state statute. This is not something that the legislature passed. This is ODOT internal rulemaking. I mean, this is ODOT, promulgation of administrative law that can be changed. And especially if, I assume we're not the only community facing this. This may be one of those we can actually use these lobbyists that we're paying so many piles of money for. But I mean, it might be worth us as the city saying, hey, we're having this problem, ODOT. We want to provide this service. You really want us to provide this service. I promise you do. Help us make this better. And maybe we can use this, whatever limited mouthpiece we have, to effectuate some kind of internal rule procedure change that would allow a little more flexibility.
And we do have access to him. We are not a member of the Oklahoma Transportation Association. However, they have let us come in without paying those dues. So we do have access to Steve Lawley, who's been here before. He was here for the public hearing, so he got to hear how good a job you guys do and how much we appreciate you. And he has been super helpful, and he is definitely the one that can help us in that direction.
Let's explore that little rabbit hole too, if we can.
Expand our services as much as we possibly can without overextending ourselves.
Is ODOT actually funding us for a fixed route system? Is that what you're telling us?
No, it's a demand response system. Fixed route means
Okay,
that we
I
go the same
understand that
direction.
part, But
No.
then I thought you said if we went to a demand response that they wouldn't reimburse us.
Several years ago, we were on a fixed route. 2010, something like that, 11, something like that.
That was the second time we tried it. We tried it once before.
Never
Okay.
worked.
I only remember the one.
Yes, we did. Well, we tried it once
doing it
before and it
longer
didn't work
now.
either time.
Okay, well, let's see if we can increase revenue.
Do you have more riders going to and from work or to and from goods and services?
I would,
Not groceries or retail, goods and services, please.
I do have that information, and work is one of our higher ones. Recreation is our highest. That usually means they're going to go, that means they're going to go to even Walmart and shop. Nutrition means they're going to Loaves and Fishes or someplace with assistance for nutrition. That one's fairly small.
I assure
Probably
you Walmart
medical-
is not recreational for anybody.
I know. I know. And medical is probably one of our top ones as well. But employment is one of our larger ones. That is, and we do have a lot of people that go to Wendy's, Chick-fil-A, the mall that work there. We were also, we've done quite a number of people going to work.
Mix is pretty even.
Yeah.
And
Gerald?
again, looking at this again, real quick, their advertising budget is tiny. It's worse than the golf.
We
It's 2,000.
do, we thank Steve very much because we do utilize Steve. In fact, I mean, Lou helps us some too in helping getting our fire extinguishers done. So everybody kind of babysits us and helps out. But yeah, we do get some benefits from Steve.
Yeah, I mean, but with both of you guys have such tiny advertising budgets that, you know, we're up here upset about how much money we're spending, but we're not even advertising, and we want them to bring in more money, but we're not giving them an avenue to do that. I mean, that seems crazy to me.
Well, wouldn't the 15,000 or 10,000 on the names of the buses would count under advertising too?
Well, but that's not advertising for them, that's advertising for other people. Like,
That's an income.
Your company can go and advertise on the bus, but we're not advertising our system to
Product.
very well. Just like the golf course isn't advertising as much as they could be.
Yes, we can certainly improve those efforts. I think we already, we can improve the efforts, you're right. We've certainly been focused on trying to cut costs, and that's probably one that we shouldn't, or we should find other ways through social media and our available resources through the PR department to handle that.
I think that's been good discussion. Gerald, you hit the nail on the head earlier, that this is something that needs to be flushed out, similar to what you're going to do. David, you're right too. I mean, this is a service that should be provided, but if we can figure out a more efficient way of doing it, then let's, by all means, figure that out. Because right now we're looking at 404,000, and then 240 or so on golf. So close to $650,000 that of expense that in two departments that could operate differently. And continue to provide a good service, then let's figure that out.
Yes, sir. Speak a little more about the $404,430, please.
Basically,
I don't understand that.
the transit is at the place where they don't have any fund reserves anymore. And in the past, we had budgeted at a deficit in this department. They do not have the luxury of doing that anymore. And so the only way to continue this operation is to fully fund what they need, and that would be the difference between what we project they're going to make in revenue and grant revenue versus the expenses that we're going to have to pay out. So that's why there's a significant increase in the transfer this year from general fund to help fund that operation.
Without the deficit, it looks like the transfer or the grant should be $175,000. But you start out with a $228,000 negative figure.
You're talking about on page, on the.
Page 190.
Okay.
Difficult way to run a checkbook.
Balance that's there, that's where we're projecting to come in this year with the surplus deficit that we're facing in the current year. So we're projecting that their fund balance is going to be in the negative. And so if we don't fund at least this much, then that negative gets even larger by the end of next year. We need to make some kind of strides to move that in the right direction. And the first part of that is fully funding what they have so that we're not adding to that.
Cool. So if we fully fund deficit a year from now will not be zero. It will be
Still be 200.
I mean, that we
It'll
have
be the same.
Correct. It should be the
next
same. The
year.
only difference will be any adjustments that are made through the audit process at the end of the year for liabilities and such.
Maybe funding $150,000 to $200,000 in the budget a year from now.
It depends on what direction we end up going with this.
Thank you.
Anything?
What else? Thank you, Aaron. Do you have another item?
You have one on the agenda.
Item 7.
Someone signed up to speak on this item for EPTA? Do you have someone signed up to
Oh,
speak?
I'm sorry. Whoa, you're right. We do have someone signed up. Matt Lohman, please speak into the microphone and give us your name, and we know your name and your address, please.
Right. Matthew Lohman, 1701 Calico Lane, Enid, Oklahoma. Thank you very much for entertaining me today, to be able to speak with you today. I also want to apologize. I was here at the last meeting to be able to speak on this when we had many a testimony, but I was helping my daughter with her math and I didn't get here in time to sign up. So I just came here today. Do not envy you guys for what you have to do. I appreciate what you're doing, working with this budget and trying to get things ready for the city. I don't even have an opinion to have to share with you right now. I just wanted to share some observation, which a lot of you, sounds like you already have an idea of it anyway. But as CEO of Hope Outreach Ministries, the many ministries that we have, since 2010, I've been working there. We've been dealing with transportation issues as a barrier to success for quite a few of our employees and a lot of our clients. Our employees, we hire, a majority of our employees come out of, they're coming out of incarceration, they're coming out of an addiction, drugs or alcohol, and some type abusive situations, or coming out of homelessness. So a lot of them do not have the funds to have a vehicle, predominantly with our male employees especially. High number of them do not have their license or have fines that are against them to where they cannot get their license. So what we see continually is transportation is a big barrier. And then when you factor in the situation where many of them have to live in the certain parts of towns that they have to live and where the jobs are located, at least maybe some of the higher paying jobs, it's very difficult for them to get to those jobs. So they end up settling for jobs that are a little bit closer. On top of that, with the transportation issue, many of them have to then walk or bike to and fro their job, which at least they're doing that, and we're pleased with that. But again, they end up going through environments that are very difficult for them because they're going through drug environments and oftentimes alcohol temptation environments as well, through a lot of the corners where a lot of the alcohol stores are as well. So just a situation that we see quite frequently, and again with our clients that we service as well at our parenting ministry, at our community care ministry, we see a lot of them again having difficulty getting to and from the ministries oftentimes because of transportation issues. So again, I do not have any recommendations on how to solve the problem. I don't have an opinion on how you should budget it. All I'm doing is giving you an observation of what I've seen, and I meant to do that last month, but I didn't have the opportunity, so I'm very sorry. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
My final comment on everything we discussed so far is just what I brought up. You know, we're telling these people, go make more money, but you're not allowed to advertise to do it. And none of us sitting up here would run our own business that way. And I think we're doing ourselves a huge disservice by making these demands but not giving anybody the way to fix it. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to fix the whole problem, but it certainly can't hurt to advertise it more. I mean, we got to get the word out about these things and let people know about them.
Aaron, do you have anything else? We need to adjourn to reconvene as the Mayor and Board of Commissioners meeting. And item 8, discuss and take necessary action on the fiscal year 2016-2017 City of Enid budget.
So this is a place, if you have any other questions or any areas that you'd like to revisit, we've talked about everything now except for EECCH, which will be coming back tomorrow. And Kevin Brisky, the new general manager with Spectre, will be here to go over their piece of that budget. And then we'll bring back any listing of revised changes that have been made since the original draft that you've received, so that we can hopefully prepare a revised draft for you to send out on Friday with the agenda for next week's meeting.
I have a question that we may not have the answer to. So there's a bill making its way through the legislature this year that would impose sales tax on internet sales, just like brick and mortar sales. It's Caldwell's bill. I think it's in conference still. I presume it would go into effect November 1 if it passes, which would give us half a year of additional sales tax on whatever those internet sales are. You know, knock on wood, as much as I love Amazon, I would really rather collect those sales tax internet sales. Do we have any idea on, I haven't seen anything, but do we know what that would turn into in additional revenue for the city? Any clue at all? I mean, I know that's part of the problem is I think it's hard to quantify that. I mean, there are few places online that do collect sales tax. You go buy Apple does. But I was just curious if we know the impact on our budget for half a fiscal year of additional, no clue?
I don't know that at current, but if that does pass and we do start seeing those taxes come in, I'd be glad to bring back that item and discuss at that point if you wanted to make an amendment to the budget for that revenue, additional
Well, it'd be a
revenue.
good problem to have.
Yes.
I don't know if the governor will sign it. I don't know, nobody knows right now, but
It didn't go very far the last time they talked about it.
yeah, this year, I think
when
it's going a
some
little bit further.
People perceive an increase in sales tax, even though it's not, they get pretty testy over it, and so it's hard to get something like that passed, but it would be good for us to have, for sure.
It'd be great, but I don't think the city will have their act together to where we'll actually get the money right away.
Well, we don't have to worry about it. That's the state's problem to figure it out, and they just write us a check.
I might have said that differently. I'm not sure the state will.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Thank you,
I said
Commissioner.
that,
Yeah.
I said that backwards, but.
I believe that.
I don't think the state will have their act together.
That's no different than the 4% that volunteered to put that on 1040.
As I read through that bill, I'm concerned about, and this is off topic, but I'm concerned about their ability to track where those sales actually occurred, to charge the right sales tax amount and have.
Oh, yeah. Very, very challenging.
Time will tell.
It's
Time will tell.
probably not a 2,000, who knows? I don't.
Knock on wood.
It'll take a while.
We can hope.
Anything else? Have a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
Motion by Aaron, second by Ben. All in favor? Cast your vote. Please cast your vote.
Thank you for
All in
joining
favor?
us for the Enid City Commission meeting. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at enid.org.